What's up, guys? We are back with the OTO podcast, episode 9. I'm with my co-host Bannon Crowley from Next Man Up MMA. You can check out his YouTube channel in the link below. And first off, it has been a little while, but we are back. We're gonna get all type of events today. 316 recap just happened. We're gonna go to 317. We got Usman Buckley fight night, Hill Roundtree fight night, and we're gonna loop back to 315. Future implications with that. But starting off, UFC 316 just happened right before the release of this episode. And a lot has happened, obviously. At the top, Kayla Harrison, new champion. Everyone, Kayla Harrison. No, not Kayla Harrison is the big fight here on the fight. But Kevin the Goat Holland also won. We'll get into that. But
Hey,
with the other guy that won, Merab Devashvili beat Sean Sugar O'Malley. So I'll go back to you. How do you what does this mean for bantamweight? Is Merab the GOAT? How did that fight look in your eyes?
yeah, answering a few questions. I think Sean, people were saying that he looked better in this fight. He did get finished in the third round, which is a little weird to look at because you could say that he did look a little better. He was fi defending the takedowns a lot better, but then at one point Marab just got him. So stopping the gooning and the drinking and the smoking. He got finished in the third round. He did all of that last time, and you could say that he won 3 rounds. People said that he won that last fight. So, at least he went to decision last time. But yeah, I think Merab's officially the bantamweight GOAT now. Like there's cool guys in the bantamweight division, right? But I think Merab is officially the GOAT. I think with beating Sean O'Malley, I mean, just looking at his resume, I know that he doesn't get as many finishes. But with this finish of O'Malley, obviously a great win. And bantamweight, let's not act like a lot of these champions before him have gone out and put on like fantastic performances as well, and we're finishing guys every single fight. Like Aljo, who people were calling one of the best bantamweights before that. We know how he won the belt. He won it off an illegal knee. Then he had the rematch against Jan, which was okay. And then he beat a guy that had one arm at pretty much halfway through that fight. And I think Marab has just been fantastic. You know, he had those 2 losses to start his UFC career. Since then, he has just gone on an absolute crazy run. I mean, if we look at this, beat Aldo, beat Jan, beat Cejudo, beat O'Malley, beat Umar, and then beat O'Malley again. Like that's just an insane run right there. I think he's officially the bantamweight GOAT now. Next for Sean O'Malley. Well, I guess next for Marab, I'm pretty sure it's Sandhagen. They were alluding to that. That makes the most sense. I don't think there's really anyone else right now it could be, especially after Sandhagen's last performance. They're gonna have him go out there and fight for the belt. But I mean, I'll ask you first before I answer. I want to know, what do you think is next for O'Malley? Do you think he should go up against a guy like Umar, and fight for another number one contendership? Or do you think he should take maybe a little lower level fight, considering he's lost to the champion twice now? And if he wins another fight against a guy like Umar and he's the number one contender, he's not going to get a title fight as long as Marav's the champion.
Yeah, I mean, I guess starting off with the fight itself, that was tough to watch. It's definitely now we know being unemployed gooning, that's what you need to do in 2025. But
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley is just simply not good enough for Marab. I think lifestyle choices aside, I think he probably trained for this fight harder than ever before. That was the first time he was really dominated, was the first fight with Merab where he would always say like the O when they would announce his record. He got hurt against Cheeto. He never had a true loss to his name in the UFC. Merab dominated him. The first fight at Noche was not even close. Sean only landed like one kick that actually hurt Merab the entire time. Now in the rematch, Merab looked even better. I think Sean is simply outmatched, and if we're being honest, he probably won't be the champ at bantamweight. Whether I mean, maybe Marab, something goes on with him, but he's going to be champ for a little while, in my opinion. But people hate on Marab going to decisions, being boring wrestling. I get that. But if we see this type of Marab where he's getting finishes like that and he's that active, he was outstriking Sean O'Malley that whole fight. I love O'Malley,
Mhm.
but as much as you can or want to defend him, Merab dominated him both fights and outstruck him in both fights. It wasn't even close, remotely close. So Merab, the good thing about Merab, whether you like him or not, is that he's maybe the most active champion in the UFC right now. He definitely is one of the most active where he says he wants to fight 3 times a year. He doesn't care. Pereira might be that guy that maybe fights more, but that's what I love about Merab, and I want him to continue that. But it might get more difficult when you're that active losing. But then going into next possible matchups, no matter who Merab fights, if he wins, he's gonna fight again very soon. Right now, I think we're gonna see Merab again, probably in the fall, maybe in the winter, probably 2 more times this year, early next year too. Like it's gonna be wild to see what he does. But I'm very disappointed that Piotr Jan already got booked with Marcus McGee. Kind of disappointed with that matchmaking because Marcus
Yeah.
McGee is like silently one of the most like promising bantamweight prospects. He's older, but if you watch any of his fights, he's incredible to watch. And fighting Jan is like a massive step up, kind of like Joshua Van getting that step up to Royval, but I don't really understand why that's gonna happen. Because Jan, in my mind, is that guy that could be fighting for the belt next. I think it seemed like it was a done deal that Sanhagen is the next guy. And with Marab's activity, it's probably going to be September, somewhere in the fall. Um, so I was shocked by that. And I mean, Sandhagen's good, but like we saw what happened with Umar versus Sandhagen and then Umar versus Marab. I don't know. He's kind of a more well-rounded fighter, but Marab is very good. I saw the UFC has him top 2 now in the pound for pound rankings. I don't have him that high, but I don't know how you can beat Marab right now. I don't know what the game plan is, what the strategy is to beat Marab. I don't think Sandhagen can do it, but I think someone like Piotr Jan or maybe Umar again would be the closest to beating him with Marab's activity coming up.
Yeah, I think like you said, I mean, I don't really see anyone beating Marab at this point. But like I said before with the Sean O'Malley question, do you think he should fight someone higher up in the rankings and try to stay as one of the number one guys, or do you think he should maybe fight down the rankings a little bit?
Yeah, he's in it such a tough spot. The first thing I thought of when the fight ended is what's next. I think the first thing he's gonna do is probably take some time off, which he should, but it's such a weird spot where he's fought a lot of these top guys. Bantamweight's kind of known in recent years for the top guys all kind of fight each other. They win one, they lose one. No one really sticks above the rest. Now Marab broke that cycle, but I think Umar would be a super interesting fight. Umar's not going to get a Marab fight again for a little while at least, coming off that last loss. So in my mind, I really wanted to see if Jan wasn't fighting Marab or now McGee. I thought Jan versus O'Malley would be a great rematch. That first fight was so fun and so it really was either way. I don't even know how most people can pick a side on that fight. So close. Um, I would have loved to see that, but it's tough for O'Malley. He's still the number one contender spot, which I kind of disagree with the UFC there. If they want to keep his star power, I get that, but I think you have to move people down because this is when long-term rankings get messed up. When you keep guys up there that don't really deserve to be up there, and then in the future it gets even more jumbled up. So I think right now, honestly, Piotr Jan or Sandhagen should be the number one guy. Umar just lost to Marab, but um, it's just tough. Song Yadong I've been seeing out there. I've been seeing Figgy. I don't love those as much. I don't think O'Malley needs to fight down that much. He should stay in that top level, but in my mind, Umar or Jan should be next for O'Malley, but if it's Jan, it might be a while anyway.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe one guy that you just mentioned in Song Yadong. I think that would be a fun fight to watch. Like I said before, the only problem is if he fights Umar and he goes out there and beats him, he's just going to be staying at that same spot. So there's not really much that he can do. I think if he fights a guy like Song Yadong, maybe he takes some time out, fights him in like 6 months. At that point, Marab will have defended the belt again, and who knows, maybe Sandhagen beats him, and then O'Malley can fight against Yadong, and then if he wins, he can get back into that number one contender spot. Or let's say he fights Yadong and then he fights Umar, then that'll probably be another year from now by the time he fights both of them. And I don't know if Marab would still be the champion within a year. I don't see anyone beating him, but obviously a guy that's going to be fighting 3 times a year, hypothetically a year from now he might not be the champion anymore. And he's also, I mean, he's 34. He's fought 24 times at this point. I feel like he's one of those guys that I wouldn't be surprised if he retires as champion. Like he's going to fight a lot more times, but I wouldn't be surprised if he retires a little bit early. But I think honestly, for O'Malley, I think you do have to fight down a little bit. Maybe Figgy, but I think Song Yadong would be a fun fight. Obviously, stylistic matchups there. Yadong, 9 wins by knockout, 7 first round finishes. These guys would be in a great striking battle right now. Yadong just beat Cejudo before this. He lost to Jan before. And O'Malley beat Jan. I guess it depends on who you ask. But I think that would be a good fight to watch in the bantamweight division. Would you say potentially he should move up to 145? I know some people were saying maybe he should fight Diego Lopez next.
Yeah, it's been so hard to match make for O'Malley after two straight losses to the exact same guy, but the first thing I think of is Sean needs to fight a striker. That's when he's at his best, when his pure striking is so that's when it reminds people how much of a star, how much talent O'Malley really has. And when he's fighting guys like Marab, he doesn't get to show it and he looks terrible, frankly. So um, I don't know about like when guys move up a weight class, it's more natural, especially as they age. O'Malley, I think he's only 30, not that old yet, but it's tough with his build. He's so tall for bantamweight. If he did move up to featherweight, he would look very small. I think he'd be a little bit more average height wise in the division, not that much taller with and lengthier than everyone else. And when you move up, sure, you might feel like you have more power, you might feel better, but the other guys are kind of coming down as you're coming up to meet in the middle, and you're gonna feel their power a lot. And O'Malley's been dropped by Jan. Like he's not known for an amazing defense or chin. His striking is just his really expertise. So I don't know. I could see. I really want to see Lopez Yair, but
Hmm.
on at this point, moving up could be the only choice left for O'Malley. At least if he wants to be a champion in the future, I think Lopez would be a fun fight. But I don't know. I think he should just take some time off and reconsider at the top of bantamweight because featherweight's a big move up for such a skinny guy like O'Malley.
Yeah, and then I have one more fight that I want to ask you about as you are the flyweight guy. Do you think we could see Pantoja versus Marab?
I 100%. I think that's probably next. Pantoja's fighting Kai Kara France. Assuming Pantoja wins, which he almost always does, not to jinx him, but Pantoja's an incredible champion. He puts on incredible fights with his cardio, his pace. He always burns out toward the end, which is polar opposite to someone like Marab, who seems like he has infinite pace. And height-wise and build-wise, Pantoja is a lot closer to Marab than O'Malley is, so I think Pantoja's realistically swept the division at this point after Kai Kara France. And I think that'd be the perfect move because Marab is also kind of running. If he's fighting 3 times a year, he's gonna run through opponents, and he's almost gonna sweep it himself already. So I think Pantoja versus Marab would be a super fight, even though people don't like maybe a flyweight bantamweight super fight, the sound of that. But I think that would be an incredible fight, and it would show people how good both of these fighters are. In my mind, two of the pound for pound best in the UFC.
Yeah, I think we got some good fights going forward. But moving on to the other side of the bantamweight, we actually saw Kayla Harrison, who has had an amazing run so far in the UFC, went out there and beat Juliana Pena, and we have a potential super fight against Amanda Nunes. I actually had someone, friend of the channel, Colin Martin, he asked me right after this fight, he said, does Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes have aura? Which, when they had that face off, I'm not even gonna lie. I will tell you that I'm actually excited for this fight. Like I'm not joking. I see you smiling over there in the corner,
No,
but
I agree. I
I'm
agree.
not joking. I think I mean, we're not getting prime Amanda Nunes. Obviously, she's been off for a while, but I think this could be a crazy fight. There's two options. I think we could see it at 135. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a possibility to see this at 145, considering we know Kayla Harrison's weight cutting and also Amanda Nunes was a 145 champion before they pretty much just got rid of the division. I don't think there's any, like, I'm pretty sure they just completely got rid of the division like a year ago or something like that. There was just no one to fight at 145, and pretty much the UFC is one of the only places that doesn't have the 145 right now because there's people like Chris Cyborg who are running 145 in other divisions as well. She had to leave the UFC and go fight somewhere else pretty much because they got rid of 145. But I think this could be a crazy fight to see no matter what. Kayla Harrison looked absolutely insane going out there, probably weighing like 155 or 160 almost. And she just bullied Pena. And I think her versus Nunes could possibly be the best women's MMA fight we could ever see.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a few names in women's MMA that move me right now, and Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes are two of them for sure. Both of them, like, I saw the face-off too. I was impressed. Kayla Harrison checks all the boxes for me, even though she's that former PFL thing that a lot of people don't love, but she's dominating. She's dominated every single UFC fight she's been in. But Zhang Weili, Shevchenko, Kayla Harrison, and Amanda Nunes, I think are the only women's MMA fighters that are truly like not stars yet, but like the top of the MMA game. Like these other names are just not impressive. They don't pull numbers, but these I was gonna say guys, these ladies, they have a lot of pull in my opinion. And Nunez Harrison is I don't want to call it a super fight, but that's a big fight to book. Kayla Harrison is so impressive. She's only 34, 3-0 now in the UFC, already a champion, but Harrison is everything that it needs to be. She's dominating in every part of MMA. And Juliana Pena, I am so sick of. They could cut her right now. I do not care. She's, I believe, 2-2 in her last four, or 4-4 in her last eight. She fights like once a year with all her health issues, but she said like dibs. I got next for the Harrison Nunez fight. Like, no, that's not happening. I don't ever want to see her fight for the belt again. She lost to Pennington last time, so. I don't think she stood a chance against Harrison this time, and she has, pathetic trash talk. But Nunez versus Harrison is a fight that could be done at lightweight or let alone featherweight. I'm gonna be shocked. Both of them are gonna be cutting down to bantamweight. I think they should both kind of like shake hands behind their backs and say like, let's both miss weight by 10 pounds and still fight it out or something. But Harrison definitely cuts like 20 something. She was probably 160. She was bigger than O'Malley
Yeah.
during that fight, but Harrison Nunez is a super fight I'd be incredibly excited for, and it brings some life back into the UFC. Probably the most since like Ronda Rousey was here, weirdly enough to say. But in that fight, how do you think a rough outline prediction of the general vibe of that fight, how it's gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the odds right now. Kayla Harrison 155, Amanda Nunes 130. I think Harrison's going to go out there and win this fight. I know Amanda Nunes, probably the greatest women's fighter of all time, but Kayla Harrison just won a UFC championship. Um, so I think she's probably the greatest combat female athlete of all time. I know DC was talking about that before, winning two Olympic medals and then winning a championship in the UFC. The only other person that did that was Henry Cejudo, who's one of the best athletes that we've seen. Maybe not the greatest UFC fighter. He did go out and win multiple championships. The back half of his career, the most recent fights. He probably should have stayed retired. His legacy would have been a little bit better, but still one of the best that we've seen too. But Kayla Harrison, I mean, I just don't see anyone beating her because I don't see anyone being like close to her size. And I think she's just going to be so much bigger than everyone else when she goes out there. Amanda Nunes, too. She's taken some time off. It'll be over 2 years by the time she fights again. The last time she fought was actually exactly 2 years ago today, at UFC 289. But depending on when they fight, maybe towards the end of the year this year. I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe they fight next year if they really want to build this up. But probably the end of this year if I had to guess. The only problem is there's no UFC event in September, which is a little weird. We found out today why, because Dana's promoting the Canelo fight in September. So I do think that Harrison's going to win this fight. The odds are very close for a good reason, but I think it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I completely agree. Harrison is so talented in every aspect. As you said, former Olympic champion, but I have the same exact thing. I think Harrison actually dominates Nunez, partly because of her age, her short retirement that she's coming off of. But I think Harrison is just like showing there's levels to the game, and maybe Dakota Dacheva in PFL honestly might be the next best thing for Harrison to take on next. But Dana would never do that. And yeah, the September pay-per-view news. Dana White seems to be half in, half out. Turkey doesn't even love Dana that much, it doesn't seem like. In the 316 post fight press conference, Dana was a little smug about it, but I don't know, he should MMA Guru should take over the UFC. Something weird is going on with Dana. He needs to commit more. But our next fight, speaking of cutting weight, missing weight, big fatties, Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. That was quite the fight, quite the performance from Pyfer. How did you what's your initial impressions on the fight?
Yeah, Mr. Body Bags came in, Philadelphia guy, pretty big prospect at this point. A lot of people have been pretty excited about him, especially after some of his last fights. He did lose against Hermanson before, but since then, has won. Now he's won 2 fights in a row. They finally had this fight. It was supposed to happen in March. I'm the problem with him is that I think he's a good prospect. I don't think he's going to be able to get to that elite level though, because watching him fight, he went for those one shots too often. He knocked down Gastelum probably what 30 or 40 times it seemed like every 5 seconds in the first round. But then Gastelum came back I mean, Pfeiffer won across the board. It was a little weird. I don't know if you noticed, but after the fight, Joe Rogan said that Gastelum probably won that fight. He's like, "Oh, yeah, Gastelum won the second and third round, you could say." And I guess you could say anything, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be good. I am interested to see after this, when he fights a guy within the top 15, if he's going to be good enough to stay there. He has the power to, but realistically, I'm still a little off on him. Like Gastelum's good. He's a little bit older now. He's been in the UFC for probably what, forever, 10 years at least. It seems like he's been fighting. He fought Uriah Hall in 2013 in his debut, and he's only 33. So, I mean, he's not that old realistically. He's just been in the UFC forever. He's a tough guy. He doesn't really he's never gotten knocked out. So I guess that's fair for Pfeiffer here. But I don't think he's gonna be able to break into the elite level. He's still young, so maybe he could prove me wrong, but I am interested to see what he could do in his next fight.
Yeah, Joe Pyfer was a name I had on my boards early of like top prospects in the UFC, guys to watch. He has a ton of power. His claim to fame was like being more powerful than Ngannou, which it could be true. He has an incredibly powerful right hook, but besides that, what else does he have? That's all he really shows. That's what he fights with. He needs a lot more fight. That's why he lost to Jack Hermanson, is a really smart gatekeeper in the division, someone that knows how to wrestle, knows how to take a hit. And Hermanson just showed him there's levels to the game, and he won easy decision. Pfeiffer really needs to evolve his game. He seems like he's got a big ego on him, maybe because of that right hook, but I will say when that landed on Gastelum's shin, like wow, that was flush, knocked him down instantly. I thought he got hit through the canvas. So he has incredibly impressive power, but it's how we translate that to be a real. Everyone in the rankings has talent, they have power. It depends now of what you do, how do you be smart with it. You see with guys like DDP at middleweight where he has, I think, the highest fight IQ at middleweight because he looks ridiculous every fight, but he always knows exactly what he wants to do, where he wants to be, and how he's going to hurt someone. So, in order for him to be a real prospect, middleweight's got very impressive rankings right now. Of the 10 to 15 guys at the bottom of it, they're still very talented guys. So, Gastelum is a perfect gatekeeper. He's still pretty young for how old he is, but he showed that there is levels where Pyfer was able to knock him down. And I wouldn't say isn't close to finishing that fight, but He didn't have anything on top of that. He would knock him down with the right hook. Gastelum would get up and Pfeiffer would try and throw it again. So if you look at the bottom of middleweight, Roman Dolidze is ranked number 8, and he's like not. He's kind of the Pfeiffer build where he's not especially talented in any aspect of the game, but he's got a good shin, good power. So if Pfeiffer wants to be a legit prospect, I think he needs to evolve his game a lot. And if he does not do that, I'm not really impressed with him to be a legit ranked prospect in the near future.
Yeah, and I mean, a guy that you just mentioned in Roman Dolidze at 8, a guy in Jared Cannonier at 7 right now who is going to be matching up against MVP coming up soon too. That got announced today. I mean, middleweight is just kind of crazy overall. And the problem with Pfeiffer right now is that you look at most of the guys and they're all pretty much booked for July, June, August. Guys like Costa, Hermanson, Vittori, Dolidze, Allen, Ikram, Chris Curtis, even guys kind of in that area where he is, they're all booked right now. So I think that he may have to wait until these guys are done. Yes, he did just go to decision, so he's probably going to wait a little while. But if he wants to fight later this year, who do you think would be a good person for him to fight? I'm assuming it would be one of those guys that I just mentioned. Um, Maybe even I think it may be like the loser of one of those fights, maybe. Roman Dolidze is fighting Anthony Hernandez. Maybe the loser of that fight, or do you think that's a little too early? Maybe he should fight someone lower down in the rankings. I don't know. I think he could fight someone towards that 15 spot, but there's so many good guys in middleweight.
Yeah, it is very tough with middleweight. There seems to be a lot of guys like formerly Anthony Hernandez, but Magomedov, Kapilov, and Mikel Pereira, where they kind of win a fight, they go to 14-15, they lose a fight, they drop out. So Pfeiffer has to take on more than I think he knows to really break into these rankings. But if we're looking at ranked fighters, you could look at Magomedov at 15. He's a guy similar to Hermanson where he's good frame, good size for the division, and Pfeiffer would not be able to just knock him down with the right hook. Pfeiffer against these big guys, he's gonna get dragged into deeper water. He had like half a foot on Gastelum. They're gonna give him a real fight. They're gonna hurt him back, kind of like Bo Nickel, where he got hurt back and he's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do now." I think Pfeiffer has to be in that spot to really thrive. So I mean, maybe his twin Bo Nickel could fight Joe Pyfer. Who knows? But I think Magomedov or I think Mikel Pereira would be a fun one because he's no longer ranked at middleweight, but he's extremely talented and athletic and tall. And that's something Pyfer, he has his big ego beating up on these smaller guys like Gastelum, where when you're smaller like Gastelum, you have to punch over the taller guys. And he was not able to do that on how much longer and taller Pyfer was. He was just abusing that right hook, just spamming it over and over again. So Pyfer should fight someone his own size. Magomedov would be interesting. Mikel Pereira would be very interesting because they're very athletic, they're very well rounded, and it would give him a real battle to see if he really is committed to being a ranked guy or not.
Yeah, I mean, you could always just give him Paulo Costa after he loses to Koplovov at the end of June, and he's on a 3-fight losing streak. I mean, that's the method right now. Let's say Paulo Costa loses that fight, which I think he probably will. If he stays in the rankings, I think every unranked guy is going to want to fight him so they can get into the rankings.
Yeah, Paulo Costa is like such a fraud. I'm not even sure what's going on with him at all, but middleweight is a hard division to break into. I mean,
Yeah,
MVP is like I don't know if he's committed to moving up to middleweight. He's kind of like Colin, kind of a tweener for
yeah.
170 and 185, but
I mean, if he beats Cannonier and he takes his spot at 7, I think he should probably be committed at that point.
yeah, and that's going to be a fun fight. MVP is like I'll stand by this. He's one of the fastest, most talented strikers in the UFC.
Hmm.
That's going to be a good fight. But moving on to a guy everyone loves, Mario Bautista, defeating Patchy Mix by decision. And I'll hold my head up. I was completely wrong about this fight. Patchy Mix looked pathetic. He looked terrible. And I'll just start with this before I go back to you. He was just standing there, not moving his head, just getting hit over and over again. One thing Bautista is very good at is his activity and his pace. He showed it against Aldo. He can do whatever he wants. He can hold people. He can jab and spar the entire time. He doesn't care. But whether you like him or not, it's pretty damn impressive. And he looked incredible. Patchy Mix looked terrible. And when you look on, I was looking at all these MMA like nerd boards of pound for pounds across the divisions. Patchy Mix was like top three. It would go
Hmm.
like O'Malley, Patchy Mix, and then like Marab or something. So I was very shocked of first of all giving him Mario Bautista. All these Bellator guys that come over, they struggle bad. I mean, Michael Chandler's proof of that. Pitbull just got dominated. They struggle very bad, and I know Dana loves it to see these guys and be like, "Oh, PFL, Bellator, they do suck. They're all terrible." But it proved him right again. They gave him Mario Bautista, the 10th ranked guy. And man, it looked like a guy in his first ever fight. Patchy Mix looked pathetic in that fight. So I guess I'll go back to you. Your overall thoughts on Patchy Mix, but more on about his future. If he even has one, he's still pretty young, but what does he do next in his second ever MMA loss?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the guys that have been coming over this year just have not been great. First off, Kai Asakura. I mean, realistically, he fought against one of the best flyweights ever in his debut, but he still just got like he didn't even look like he should have been in the same octagon at that point. And now he's ranked 15th. We just saw this weekend, Patchy Mix did absolutely nothing. He stood there, and then he would throw one punch every few minutes, and then I'm pretty sure the announcers like had to hype it up. Like you could hear DC be like, "Oh, I think he got him with that one," and then he did absolutely nothing. Um, and these debuts that we've been having, especially this year too, like you said with Pitbull too, just we haven't had too many great guys coming over recently, which is kind of sad because before, I mean, when Pereira came over, that was a very hyped debut. Even when MVP came over, he did lose. I forget exactly who he lost to.
Gary?
Um, yeah, lost to Ian Gary, but before that, came out and beat Holland in his debut, beat Shara. So losing to Ian Gary, obviously not a bad thing in his second fight, but he's had a pretty decent career so far. But I don't even really know what's next for him at this point. I think maybe you got to give him a guy that's towards the bottom of the rankings, and see if he's even good enough to be ranked at this point. Um, I don't know. Like you said, I think Dana likes to bring these guys over, but when they lose, I think he's very happy. When they turn out to be a star like Pereira, it's great. Obviously he came from kickboxing, not one of the competitors of the UFC really, but these guys from Bellator he likes to bring over, and when they lose, he's excited. But when they become a star, he's also a big fan too. So it really just depends. It's a win-win for him either way. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think
but oh,
oh,
I'm not
uh,
I'm lagging, I'm lagging.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah. I think going off of Mario Bautista, not a fan favorite. I wasn't a huge fan favorite of him after that last fight against Aldo, but he's proven that he can be a competitive guy in this division. I think next he should fight against your boy Cheeto Vera. I think that'd be a fun fight to watch. If he wants to continue to moving up the rankings as well, and maybe. I mean, he has 8 wins in a row now, so I think he is a legit prospect, could maybe be a contender.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm not a fan of Mario Bautista, but you cannot ignore what he's been doing. The Jose Aldo fight, Jose Aldo is still very good. He still is very good. I know he retired because he had to. He's been fighting for so like 15 years now at the top level, but Mario Bautista is on an impressive win streak going back to 2022. He does have he's one of those guys like Marab that goes to decision almost every single fight, but he has one of the longest win streaks in the division and at the top of the rankings. So Cheeto Vera would be a very fun fight for him. Cheeto has a great chin. That fight, he's definitely not getting finished by Bautista, but we can see. I don't know if Bautista has a high ceiling with his fight style. He's kind of a pressure guy. He can kind of like scrape out some scorecards, but I don't know if he has championship level potential per se. But if he can keep moving up this win streak, um, it would benefit him obviously, but I think you would have to move him up fast to really prove if he's good enough. Because if Mario Bautista is fighting, if he moves up the rankings one spot every single win, he's gonna have a 15 fight. He's gonna like break the record for the win streak of all time in the UFC, and he's gonna be like the number 3 or 4 ranked guy still. So I think he should take a big jump, maybe Cheeto, and then he should fight those top tier guys like Sandhagen, Yonner, Song Yadong, one of those guys. But he looked incredibly impressive against Patchy Mix. And next for Patchy Mix, in my opinion, if it's not outside the rankings, the only guy I could really see him fighting is like Ayman Zahabi, who
Hmm.
is 11 now because of, I mean, he also beat Aldo. He's on an impressive run in the UFC, but I don't think he's talented or has a ceiling at all. He's on the older side. I think that would be a good fight for Mix because if Zahabi is faster and stronger than Mix, then he is not good enough for the UFC. Simply put, at least to be a ranked fighter. I think Zahabi's the only guy that really could, that Mix showed he can fight with on the feet at least, because Bautista was piecing him up really bad. Zahabi's slower, older, and that would be a good test if Mix is legit. Maybe it was stage fright, first time in the UFC, but I do like Mix, and I will. He was calling him a bum journeyman, Bautista. He was calling him all these names. And then after the fight, my biggest pet peeve when fighters do this, he was saying he didn't prepare, took it on short notice. Like, take the loss like a man. You got dominated by Mario Bautista. Own up to it. That was embarrassing. But honestly, like, it might be a Michael Chandler type career for Patchy Mix, just without any of the excitement at all. Just kind of losing to like bottom guys and like being kind of the almost like if man, like you're almost there. If he did that, if you won that. But moving on to the GOAT, Kevin Holland, the trailblazer, trailblazes his way back into the rankings. Dominate
Hmm.
Vicente Luque, incredibly impressive fight, and you can take over from there.
Yeah, I mean, like we said at the beginning of this podcast, at the beginning of the year, Kevin Holland said he wanted to fight 45, I mean, 6 times this year. And so far, I mean, if we look at it, right, Kevin Holland is undefeated this year at middleweight. But he is undefeated this year. He's 2-0 at middleweight, but he's undefeated. So that's all the
Welterweight,
middleweight.
welterweight.
Yeah, not middleweight.
He's bad
Opposite.
at middleweight.
Yeah. I was just making sure you were paying attention. But he lost to RDR. RDR is moving up the rankings pretty quickly. So like Kevin Holland, it is a little frustrating because you look at these losses, right? Lost to Kamzat, lost to MVP, lost to JDM, who's the champion now, lost to RDR, who's going to be fighting a top 5 guy soon. Roman Dolidze, he didn't lose. That was not real. That was a fluke injury. Retired against Stephen Thompson. He should not have agreed to stand up for that one. So we're gonna take out the Stephen Thompson and Dolidze fights because he was just being nice to Stephen Thompson, and the Dolidze fight didn't count. Like that was a fluke injury. So he lost to RDR, MVP, JDM, who's a champion, Kamzat, who could potentially be a champion. Like they're pretty good losses, but now he's back. He's locked in. He went to decision, but killed Gunnar Nelson. I mean, he got performance of the night. He was looking very good in that fight. Came out and destroyed Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque is not very good. I've never been a fan of him. I just don't think he's very good. Like he lost to Bilal by decision. Got knocked out by Jeff Neal, who I also don't think is very good. So yeah, I just don't think Vicente Luque is the greatest, but it's another win on Kevin Holland's resume. He went out there and, like he said, he likes to fight bums. Pretty much. That's what he said when he called out Kobe Covington, which is the next fight. Kobe Covington hasn't, for a guy that is always on Twitter and always responding, I think he's scared because he has not said a single thing about this fight. His mentions, you go on his tweets, they're just flooded with respond to Kevin Holland, and for a guy that's always on Twitter, he's not responded to Kevin Holland. I think like I'm not even trying to be biased here. I think Kevin Holland, if he's fighting against the Colby Covington that we've seen recently, I think Kevin Holland has a pretty good chance in this fight. Covington is 9 right now, so this is what we've been, outlining. Gets this fight, he's 2-0 now this year, gets into the top 15. He could be 3-0, wins this fight, gets into the top 10. And Covington in his last fight against Buckley, just what stood there and just got beat up the whole time, realistically. I mean, the doctor stoppage in the third round, he put up some strikes, but he just really got beat up, and then was just done. They called the fight, even before that against Leon Edwards, who, I mean, we've seen how good Leon Edwards has been recently. He just completely looked terrible against Leon. He got out wrestled by Leon Edwards, right? Okay. So I think Kevin Holland realistically can win this fight. The last time Colby Covington won a fight was he went 5 rounds and won by decision against Jorge Masvidal. So I'll let you take this away, but I think as long as Colby Covington responds, we could be seeing Kevin Holland in the top 10.
Yeah, this is exactly what we've been waiting for. He's been following our game plan to a T. But when you look at other guys like Buckley, like Michael Morales, it doesn't take a lot to break into the rankings, break into the top 10. So Holland just has to string a few wins together, not go back up to middleweight, be a little smart about this.
Hmm.
He has a ton of potential that we have been waiting for. But I loved his call out. He wants to fight the worst fighters in the UFC, which is the perfect thing I wanted him to say because Colby Covington might be the worst ranked fighter in the UFC besides all those fat, obese heavyweights. But Colby Covington, you went through his last few fights, everything is correct. When he fought Leon, Colby Covington is a strictly chain wrestler and he doesn't know how to wrestle anymore. He's just a dude in the octagon getting beat up by UFC fighters. The WWE is calling for you, brother. He is so finished in the UFC. It's amazing that that top 10 ranking is just there for Kevin Holland to take. He has been completely silent about it, but he doesn't even have his fastball. He doesn't have that trash talk. He doesn't have his wrestling. He's just a human punching bag that Holland can dominate. It's a great call out, but also not just because of Colby Covington being terrible, but because that ranking spot in the top 10. This is perfect for Holland, but in the Luque fight, Holland looked incredible. Welterweight is truly where he thrives, and he's showing it. In the last few years, Kevin Holland has never been really knocked out. He's been finished twice, but he's never been like actually hurt or knocked out. And at welterweight, that chin, that power and reach and height he has is enough to make a legit run here. The real problem is with his own mentality in the fight between contending for the belt that he says he doesn't want and making more money. Who knows? But if he's staying this active and he's winning the fights this dominantly, he's only 32. We could see a legit run here for Holland. So crossing my fingers. But Colby Covington would be an incredible fight. That's like a domination by Kevin Holland. I'm not even concerned about that at all. But with his size, maybe a Ian Gary Kevin Holland fight in the future could be a fun striking battle. But with Luque too, Holland looked amazing in every part. We don't even have to go into it. Amazing anaconda choke, great elbows in the clinch. He opened up that hematoma on Luque's ear, and after Luque's brain bleeds in the past, I was a little worried for him, but he should not have been there with Kevin Holland in the first place. So at he's 2-0 right now at welterweight. That's all I'm concerned about. Those losses are not in this division. Different fighter. So I'm pretty happy with that debut or with that fight by Holland, and I hope he's fighting again Joshua Van style in about a month or two.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if he's gonna fight Colby, it's gonna take a while, which is the only problem, because Colby is gonna drag this out and probably not even end up fighting. I really hope they do, because this would be very entertaining to watch overall. But yeah, I mean, if he doesn't fight him, who do you want him to fight next? He did call out Carlos Prates, who just lost to Ian Gary before. The only thing with Prates is that he's 13th, Holland is 14th, so it wouldn't really do too much for him, in my opinion. Another guy that I would like to maybe see him fight, could be Gilbert Burns, who's 10th right now. Gilbert Burns, I also like. I don't think he's very good. He just got knocked out by Morales. He got knocked out by Sean Brady. Or no, he went to decision against Brady, got knocked out against JDM. Like, if we're being realistic, I think, in my opinion, like Gilbert Burns is like the Paulo Costa of the welterweight right now. And I mean, if he could fight against him, and get that 10th ranking, that would be great too. It would be interesting. I am interested to see what happens between Usman and Buckley. Kevin Holland has already knocked out Buckley before. That was 5 years ago, so it's been a little while. But I think if Usman loses, he probably retires. I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. But I just hope that Holland's next fight, if it's not against Kobe, he gets someone good. I'm scared though that if it's not Kobe, it's going to be someone that's going to be a lot harder. Like I don't want to see him fight Morales right now. Maybe in one more fight, but Morales is really good. I think that'd be a scary fight for him. I don't think he should fight Ian Gary right now, either. I think maybe in another fight, like you said, in the future, but maybe even if he has to go fight like Jeff Neal at 11, Gilbert Burns at 10, or if hopefully he can fight Covington at 9.
Yeah, fighting is a young man's game, and like I preach about almost every episode, welterweight is that one division for some reason, maybe lightweight too, where the older guys are refusing to leave or get ranked lower by the rankings committee. And Usman, Leon Edwards, Colby Burns, um, it's over. They should be where Masvidal is, which is off the rankings, out of the UFC completely. All of them are washed for all I care. And all of these young guys are going to keep beating them, keep winning. I don't want to say Buckley's going to dominate Usman, but another young guy, the pattern will continue. Burns is in that same level with Covington. He is finished. He had that incredible performance against Kamaev, like what, 3 years ago now. He's done for. So if we're gonna go from strictly a selfish point of view, I want Gilbert Burns or Colby Covington because Kevin Holland will dominate both of them because they're washed. Maybe in the future, hey, Leon Edwards. I think this younger version of Kevin Holland can beat Leon Edwards. I would legit say that Leon we saw versus Colby. It turned out they were both terrible. I thought at the time they
Hmm.
were both pretty good. It turns out they were both actually very bad right now. So I think Gilbert Burns would be a great fight for Holland. Gilbert Burns is so done, it's not even funny. Holland would dominate him any way he wants, just like Morales did. So it seems like the matchmakers are finally realizing the core guard is changing. They're giving Usman, Burns, Covington these very hard fights against these young guys moving up. And Kevin Holland, I think they should consider him to be one of these guys that should get that big fight against Covington. He puts on a show, gets a reward bonus, and then people are like, all right, he's legit. And then he moves up from there. But all I know is 2027, Kevin Holland is going to fight Ian Gary for the belt, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, the only problem is what 2027, let's say he fights 5 times a year, so that'll be what his sixth title defense.
Yeah, all right, I think eighth or ninth by then, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Maybe
he's
like
gonna move
closer to
up
like
the weight in
probably
the
like sixth or seventh.
All right, so moving on, moving on.
But what one more thing before we move on. Um, I do think, I mean, I if he does fight, I want to see him fight. Um, Hopefully soon. He said potentially maybe that fight night in San Antonio in Texas. He's from Texas in September. That'd be his fourth fight this year. Third that actually counts. But then he could fight again after September in like November or December. Or if he could fight earlier, I mean UFC 319 Duplessis versus Chimaev. There's no fights on that besides them, so that would be a great fight. And I think Holland versus Covington needs to be either a fight night main event or I think it should be on a pay-per-view in my opinion.
Yeah, or Usman Buckley is this weekend. He could take that one too. That would be
Yeah.
a great matchup. But speaking of them, that's our next fight night next weekend, and that is a very very big fight. And as we were just talking about in the division, the young guys are beating the old guys. Is Buckley going to continue this trend and beat Usman here?
It's really sad because I really do like Usman. And he just had, you know, one unfortunate event changed his whole career. Losing to Leon Edwards with that kick that changed his whole career. Also, he can't really stand. His knees have just been terrible. But it's been a while since he's fought. I'm still a big fan of Mr. Usman. Do I think he's gonna go out and beat Buckley? I don't know. At 38 years old, he's been off. He's on three straight losses. He lost to Kamaev, but that was a very good performance from him. People were saying if that went more than 3 rounds, he could have potentially won that fight. And I would agree. His last win, was against Colby Covington in 2021. Um, so not
Yikes.
great. But then he beat Masvidal before that in 2021. So realistically, he's very past his prime. It is going to be sad to see Buckley probably knock him out. It's 5 rounds. I don't know if Usman's going to be able to go 5 rounds unless he just tries to wrestle the whole time. Um, Maybe he'll get one more chance at the top, but realistically, Buckley's minus 265. I, I think that's fair.
Yeah, Usman is one of the best welterweights of all time, and going from his belt to his 5 title defenses, I mean, incredibly impressive. But when you look back, like the wins over Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal, that was his entire legacy. Not ideal, and I don't want to say he mismanaged his career, but losing to Leon twice and then short notice losing to Kamaev, which he would have probably won on in 5 rounds. Incredibly impressive performance against Kamaev, but that was 2 years ago now. It's just not a great look to be 38 years old to be Kamaru Usman, and you're on this 3 fight skid and you're fighting Buckley, who just absolutely he had Colby crawling on his knees and getting the female referee to waive the fight for him to be an alpha male. Um, Buckley's very good. I know that Kevin Holland fight did happen, but that was a completely different Buckley, and Kevin Holland is very impressive as a fighter, you'd have to admit. So I think Buckley's gonna dominate, to be honest. I'm not Usman is, I mean, we saw it against Kamaev. He's so good. His knees don't work. He might be crawling around out there, but he's so well rounded and so athletic that if he was perfectly healthy, who knows how long he would have defended his belt for in this division, besides that one head kick. The alternate timeline is crazy, but I think Buckley is going to dominate him, sadly, and just show that the old guys are out, the new guys are in welterweight. It's going to continue with that trend. But moving on to the next fight night, we got Jamal Hill versus Khalil
Uh,
Rountree.
there's no we're just gonna skip Rose
Oh,
Namajunas versus
oh,
Miranda Maverick.
I assumed you didn't want to talk about them, but okay, yeah.
Oh,
You go. You had a big
hey.
thing on Namajunas versus Maverick, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So after we talked about that one, I do want to point out Cody Garbrandt is coming back on this card. By the way, a fan favorite. Also Paul Craig, Michael Chiesa. Um, you know, this is Ricky Simone versus Charles Jourdain. I feel like I've seen that fight. Like this is one of those cards that we talk
that,
about.
they actually just canceled that fight. Sorry,
Uh,
sorry. I know you were really excited, but that one's off.
yeah.
What happened?
Um, yeah. So, like we were saying, like I was saying before, moving on to the next fight night, we have um Jamal Hill, your boy,
Yep.
versus Khalil Roundtree. And there's also some other great fights on here as well. Fiziev versus Bahamondes in the co-main event. That's gonna be. I think that could honestly, like, if I'm making a prediction, I think that could be one of the best fights of the year. Also, we get the return of Uralbai, the boy, who unfortunately I never thought he was gonna be able to like open his face again after that last fight. Um, like I don't even know how he survived that last fight with the amount of blood that just poured out of his face. Um, Curtis Blades, the number 5 ranked heavyweight, is fighting an unranked fighter. Um, so yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So let's get back to the top with our co-main event and main event. I think Jamal Hill, like I said last time, I told you guys against Yuri, I said I would bet my soul, and I did, that Jamal Hill would lose that fight. He did gain some respect for me. He looked pretty decent. But Khalil Roundtree is going to come in here at minus 142, and Jamal Hill's not going 5 rounds against Khalil Roundtree. I think Khalil Roundtree is just going to uh, leave your boy, unfortunately, probably out in a stretcher at this point.
yeah, it is tough. I mean, Alex Pereira aside, Roundtree has ran through every single fighter he's fought since 2021. His Muay Thai style at that size, with his athleticism and striking, is extremely impressive. And he did pretty good against Pereira. He might have maybe dropped him that one time, who knows? But Jamal Hill, two fight losing skid already. And his striking showed against Yuri where you can't like be that unorthodox if you want to be the champion. Like it works when you're fighting Glover, who's like 49 years old and like physically cannot react in time. But when you're fighting these young guys like Khalil Roundtree, it's a lot harder to pull off your unorthodox striking with to land that power. And Jamal Hill is very good striking. Uh, it's just tough because Roundtree might just be a better version of him. Uh, he's just more skilled. It seems like he wants it more, to be honest. Seems like he's more motivated and kind of Jamal Hill does not seem focused. He's kind of fighting. I see people compliment him on Twitter and he starts yelling at them. I hope that's not CTE, but I'm not sure what's going on with Jamal Hill. It's going to be a close fight. I'm honestly not. There's a chance I go with Jamal Hill there, but Roundtree is too good to pass up on. And I think Roundtree will KO him throughout the fight. Jamal Hill is a great chin, though. Maybe it's cracked because of Pereira or Hill or Yuri, who knows. But Fiziev Bahamondes is an insane fight. I actually feel bad for both of these guys because Fiziev is getting the hardest possible fights. He tore his ACL. They give him Gaethje again, and now Bahamondes, who if you have not seen him fight, he's incredible. He's a fight of the night contender. Every single time he's on a card, he puts up the best fight. He's super lengthy. He's super accurate and has a ton of power. He's not afraid to throw knees, throw wild hooks. He just wants to hurt people. And Fiziev is that pure Muay Thai, kind of like Roundtree, but he makes people bleed. He hurts people on the inside in the clinch. So it's kind of like a big outside rangy guy versus a shorter, stronger clinchy guy in Fiziev. So that is going to be a banger. I have no idea who wins that fight, but I'm kind of leaning toward Bahamondes and Fiziev's getting up there. He might be 34 now. He does not deserve these hard matchups. In another world, he's fighting Michael Chandler's. He's fighting Paddy Pimblett's, Gamrot's, and he's just dominating them, piecing them up striking wise. But in this time, I think he's gonna lose again, sadly. And either way, that is a banger. And then Curtis Blades, yeah, we do hate on heavyweight, but that was originally on UFC Seattle, I think, and then it got moved to 314 maybe, and then moved again. Why Curtis Blades is a guy that's like a gatekeeper for the belt. He's been that close to winning it, and he's just like fighting. I don't understand what the matchmakers are doing. Tai Tuivasa, thank God, is finally out of the top 10. He's still 11, don't worry. But I just don't understand. This guy's a DWCS guy maybe he's good, who knows? But why is he like give him Tai Tuivasa if you want to feed him like one of these ranked guys? I genuinely do not understand it, but either way, both very good cards leading up into UFC 317 with two champs after that.
Yeah, 317 should be a fantastic card. Almost across the board, except for one guy that has unfortunately snuck onto the main card who um hopefully once the UFC does a really good job about sometimes changing fights around, and I really hope that he gets off the main card. We'll have to wait and see until then. But Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship because Islam got scared of Ilia and is going to fight JDM and probably going to get knocked out, and JDM will become the greatest of all time at that point. And then your boy Alex Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. We also have another one of your boys in Benil Dariush against Mr. Money Moicano. And then another one of your boys. I mean, you got a lot of your favorites on this card. Joshua Van against Brandon Royval on here too. So I think this is going to be a good card. Um, and then there's Justin Tafa also on the main card, but I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I would rather see Paulo Costa versus Koplovov on the main card than that. Like I'll be completely honest to you guys. I don't want to see Justin Tafa. Um, or even put Tracy Cortez on the main card or Jack Hermanson versus RoboCop. Like I'll take any of those on the main card besides Justin Tafa. And I really just hope Justin Tafa gets knocked out again. This card is very good and the I just don't like there has to be something going on here, right? There's no way that this guy who's 7-5, he's lost his past two fights, somehow was on the 312 main card and is at plus 300 to win this fight, is on the main card again. Like, I don't know.
Don't forget he's 4-5 in the UFC, so even less
Yeah.
impressive.
Hmm.
I think it might be that Mark Hunt lawsuit. Maybe they got some blackmail. They want to get these big fatties on the main card. Dana White always says you want to start your main card with a banger to start people or the pay-per-view off with the banger. So I'm happy it's gonna be Tafa just like going out there completely fat, zero training. I don't know how many times we have to say it, but if you're a light heavyweight and you suck, eat a few donuts, move up to heavyweight, and you're guaranteed top 10 ranked guy. So congrats with that. But it is a very impressive, fun fight besides that. Literally any fight would be better than top on the main card. Van versus Royval, if that is made, 100% a better fight. Paulo Costa is actually a guy we said earlier is actually just as disappointing as Tafa. So it is sad how boring those guys can be for how fun they could be if they put everything into it. But Beneil Dariush versus Moicano, the obvious rematch from their fight at 311, I believe it was, where Moicano had to step up to get sacrificed to Islam. Um, but that would be a fun fight. Two pretty even guys. Moicano wants his easy fights, and they gave him Islam, so Dariush is a little bit more his speed to make some easy money. But I will say, I will claim this guy, Pantoja. That is going to be such a fun fight. As the co-main, every time Dana says we got two title fights, you're pretty bored. You're like, all right, the co-main's going to be a boring women's fight. But we got Pantoja Kai Kara France. That is a super fun fight. KKF has that huge KO. He's moving with some momentum here with Pantoja, who's been so consistent, so good. I don't understand why he doesn't get more respect in the division. And then obviously the main event of Tapuria versus Oliveira. I'm very split on that main event because when guys move up to 45 to 55, they lose that power that they don't realize that they're fighting guys who are naturally in the 170s for weight. And these guys were just fighting at 145. So he's known for that heavy power. That's his main attribute. But Oliveira, I mean, he's done some crazy things. I'm happy he gets to fight for the belt again, but do you think Tapuria can overcome the weight and power difference at 155?
Yeah, so I think Taporia is going to win this fight. I think honestly he may be. I want to see him versus Islam, right? Because I think they're the two best in the UFC. Like undoubtedly, I think Taporia could honestly be the best fighter in the UFC. That's why I want to see him fight Islam, pound for pound wise, at least. I think Islam, obviously, one of the best, if not the best right now. But I think Ilya really is that great, and I do think that he can become one of the greatest of all time. Like he has everything that you could want. He has great knockout power, but he has more wins by submission so far. I think people just forget how much he really has in his bag overall. I mean, he went out there. He's been on a great run in the UFC, getting knockouts, but in his overall MMA career, he has been able to get finishes by submission, which against a guy like Charles is going to be massive because Charles is going to want to try to submit him. He's going to want to try to take it to the ground. So it'll be interesting to see how Taporia can fight against that. Also, I think the power won't be that much of a difference because 145 to 155. Most of the time, I think this is probably one of the easiest jumps because 125 to 135, I think there's a big difference between a guy like Pantoja and Marab, just weight wise. 135 to 145, pretty comparable as well. But I think 145 to 155, we've seen a bunch of guys go in between. And I think the biggest thing when we talk about the weight jumps is Islam going from 155 up to 170. Like that's going to be a big difference. I think JDM is going to be a good amount bigger than him. But I think Ilya walking around like 155 or 160, whatever he said, he's even been up to like 170. I think this is his true weight class, and I think it's going to be very exciting to see. And based on what you said, I'm assuming you don't agree with Ilya being a minus 395 favorite.
I mean, I don't. My only concern is the guys. When you look at Volk, Holloway, they move up. that chin does not move up with them. They get dominated by this heavier power. I mean, let's say Topuria, who I thought he should have fought, fights Islam right now. Islam is massive. There's a reason he wants to go up to welterweight. He is humongous. And Ilya going from a guy that's fighting welterweight down to Ilya, who just fought at featherweight, is a massive difference. But I mean, Oliveira's chin gets cracked a lot. I mean, Michael Chandler can do it. I think Ilya, I mean, the most impressive run in the UFC right now, I think, goes to Ilya. I think last year I had Fighter of the Year going to Pereira over Ilya. I'm not sure if you had that sentiment too, but
Mhm.
I mean, Ilya's making moves like if he beats Oliveira, if he fights Islam, who knows? He could be one of the best of all time. He has that potential. He's only 28. So I'm gonna be honest, Oliveira, I'm so happy he's fighting for the belt again, but I think Ilya's gonna crack that shin hard, and then maybe his reckoning will come against a heavier, more formidable guy like Islam.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a great fight overall. And I think either way, we're going to have a pretty good champion in this division and a guy that's going to be exciting to watch. And hopefully we can get Ilya versus Islam at some point, maybe next summer. And then the co-main event, Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. Pantoja has been great in pretty much every performance. Kai Kara France, an interesting guy for him to fight. As we've said, flyweight just hasn't been great with contenders recently, and that's just because Pantoja has gone out and beat all of them, right? It's not his fault that he's been so great, but there just have been guys that they've been getting. I mean, they had to bring in Kai Asakura to fight him because they didn't really have anyone. Um, and it is interesting. Kai Kara France did lose to Moreno and Albazi back to back, then came back after a year off, beat Steve Urseg, and now is fighting for the title. Um, I think it's just because they didn't want to give Royval the championship fight. Now we know Royval is fighting Joshua Van on this card, and Tatsuru Taira as well, who I know we're both a fan of. Hopefully, he can make his way up and get a title fight in the future. He does have a fight that is booked for the future as well. I believe it's in August. So that could be a potential fight where, if he wins that one, he can move up and try to get a championship fight after that as well, because they're going to need contenders against Amir Al-Bazi. So he could be the next guy for the belt after if Royval beats Van again. And continues his winning streak. But flyweight, there's some guys that would be interesting to see for Pantoja to fight. They're just probably one fight away. And it is interesting that they're just having Royval wait around, but I do understand why. But I think you never know. I mean, Kai Kara France has that knockout power. 12 wins by knockout, 13 first round finishes. It really only takes one punch for him to knock out Pantoja, but I'm not sure if Pantoja is going to let him do that.
Yeah, flyweight, it's my favorite division. I'm loud and proud about it. Pantoja is so impressive, but it is weird with Royval. Like, for some reason, he's head and shoulders above everyone in the rankings, but he can never quite beat Pantoja. He can never be that champion that he's so close. I feel like he's been the number one contender for like his entire career, maybe. But this is a massive fight, a super fun fight at that. Kai Kara France is very good, but I mean he dominated Urseg, knocked him out, but I think Urseg was kind of fighting above where he really deserved to be or should have been. But KKF is only 32, and that was a huge first round KO over Urseg. This is gonna be a fun fight, but I think Pantoja is a level above him, to be honest. I mean, he lost to Albazi, he lost to Moreno. I think he's good, he's got great power, but I think Pantoja, I hope people see how good he really is again, and then maybe we can see that Marab fight after this. But I'm taking Ilya and Pantoja pretty confidently.
Yeah. And just looking at the rest of this card too, I mean, we have odds for the Van fight. It hasn't been officially 100% announced, but it seems like it's going to happen. Van was the favorite last night. I know we were talking about that. Royval has moved to -120 today. So a little interesting. I do think that Royval, Van's been a fun, exciting fighter, but Royval, I mean, at -120 seems a little crazy to me. I think he is the favorite to win this fight overall, especially Van coming in after less than a month off and not getting a full training camp against arguably the best guy that's not the champion right now. So I'm not sure if he'll be able to win that fight. Moicano versus Dariush is going to be a fun one. Hopefully, Mr. Money Moicano can win that one. Justin Tafa, hopefully I'm taking who's this guy? Denise that he's fighting. I'm taking him to win first round knockout. I'm write that down. I'm taking whatever. I just hope Justin Tafa gets knocked out and cut from the UFC. But as we know, heavyweights don't get cut, so I guess we'll have to see. But this should be a good card overall as well. I don't know if there's any other fights you want to talk about on here. Maybe Tracy Cortez.
I do like to talk about Tracy Cortez, but I was just gonna mention Van. We both are big fans of him. I've loved him since the day he joined the UFC, and he was on pace possibly to be the youngest UFC champion in history. Sadly, he's now older than John Jones once was when he broke that record, but he's very close, and I was following it closely where he beats Silva, he beats Royval. If he beats Royval, Pantoja moves up to bantamweight. Maybe he's a interim fight away. Maybe the Royval fight could have been in another world an interim fight, but Van was very close to beating that record. And if he beats Royval, I mean, he's the number one guy, if not the best. If Pantoja moves up, but maybe second best of the record. He was very close to beating that, but Royval is a massive step up, and it happens every single time where my favorite flyweight prospect, like Tetsuro Taira, they take on Royval, they kind of get humbled. I mean, that was an amazing fight, but he got hurt bad in that fight. It was fun to watch, but Royval really does show the levels to each division, being a gatekeeper like that. But moving on we're going to cut back to 315 to JDM. Obviously, took the belt off Bilal, dominated him striking. In my opinion, JDM is the most talented boxer in the UFC. He showed it off. Maybe Max Holloway's better, who knows? But JDM, incredibly impressive boxing. Took that belt. What's next for JDM? It seems like Islam is the obvious answer, but there's a lot of top guys at welterweight waiting for that belt too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, since the first episode of this podcast, I've been saying that JDM I think was one of the most underrated guys in the whole UFC. And I was just waiting for him to come back after that injury. And he finally does, came back, dominated Bilal Muhammad. He was plus like 200 at one point as well before these fights, a pretty big underdog, and went out there and just beat him through 5 rounds and proved that, like you said, he could be the best boxer in the UFC. And 200 total strikes he threw. 3 takedowns landed for Bilal, but he stopped 6 of them. Bilal was only 3 for 9 during that fight. 178 significant strikes for JDM. He was just fantastic in this whole fight. And as we know, like I said before, Islam more than likely moving up now that he actually vacated the belt, which was a little weird. We thought that from what we heard, he wasn't going to let his belt go and he was going to try to fight and stay there. But, Islam versus JDM, I think it's going to be a great fight. And who knows? I think JDM is going to go out there and he's going to be a lot bigger. And I think he has a real chance. Like I said before, 155 to 170 is one of the biggest jumps that we've seen. I mean, we've seen Kevin Holland go from 170 to 185, and he's been dominated in the wrestling. But from 150 to go from 155 to 170 against one of the best boxers in the UFC is going to be really tough for Islam. And JDM, he defended, like I said, he defended 6 of Bilal's takedowns. Islam's going to try to get some takedowns. He's not going to have that size advantage that he usually does at 155. So I think it's going to be interesting how this fight goes. And I mean, as of right now, I do have to back JDM because that's my boy. The odds have there's some odds online, JDM at plus 170, so very similar to what we saw against Bilal, pretty much the same thing right now. So I mean, hopefully it stays around there. We can make some money as well, but I do think JDM has a very, very strong chance in this fight.
I completely agree. There's only a few guys every year that like strikes fear into my heart as unbeatable guys. Khabib when he fought Connor. I was like I got goosebumps watching. Maybe it's because I love Connor too much, but I was like, this guy's unbeatable. You cannot beat him. Not but there's guys now like Marab is getting pretty close to that status where there's guys that are that dominant. Pereira almost got there, but I would say John Jones is on that level. Khabib, and it is when Islam beat Oliveira and then beat Volk, he was one of those guys where I'm like, this guy's unbeatable. In his prime, you cannot beat him. It's only been a few years since then. Islam is only 33 years old. Maybe kind of like Khabib, we could see an early retirement, but I don't know. I don't feel that way with Islam anymore. The Moicano fight doesn't really count. That was not really a title fight, but Poirier was the very next one after Volk. And I gotta say, maybe Poirier's good, but that was Poirier was banged up in that one. He was hurt. He's retiring now, only a year after that. And I gotta say, Islam did not look insane in that fight. He definitely dominated Poirier. It was a close fight, but he dominated and how impressive he looked. But Islam's not on that. I just feel like he's right on that edge. He's one fight away from plummeting. And that's how fast it can happen in the UFC. And I think JDM, I think the only two guys in the UFC are JDM and Ilya. Guys with incredible boxing, incredible power, and then enough grappling that they can withstand it on the ground. And JDM, I mean, his boxing is incredible. That Islam, I think, same with Bilal, would stand with him, and then maybe he'd go down with him. But I think that jump up is so I'm not gonna say he's running from Ilya, but Islam is very big for lightweight, and the super fight I wanted to see is Islam Ilya. I still want to see it, but I don't know if Islam fights here, loses to JDM. I think I'd be taking JDM against Islam, honestly. I think that fall off is gonna happen very, very soon for the pound for pound number one guy. And then we could even I almost feel like we could see a retirement pretty soon in Islam's future. Instead of fighting down in the rankings, I don't see him doing that. So I don't know. I think he has nowhere to run. I think Ilya can knock him out, and I think JDM can also knock him out.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be very tough for him because like realistically if he beats JDM, he just left his division. So is he going to go back and fight Ilya? Probably not. He's probably going to stay up there and defend his belt. Um so it is interesting that, he's leaving because Ilya's not going to move up to 170. I mean, maybe he does. That would be kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is interesting because on one side, if Islam goes out and wins another belt, he's one of the greatest of all time. Like pretty easily, right? He goes out there and he has crazy wins on his resume. He goes out there and wins another belt. He is one of the best all time, top 10, if not higher, in my opinion, at that point. But if he loses, it is interesting because maybe he goes back to lightweight and then fights against the winner of Charles versus Ilya. And then Ilya, I think, has the power to beat almost anyone right now. So, this is a very big fight for Islam and his legacy going forward. But it is exciting that we'll be able to see it and have a big fight.
Yeah, and that's another one of these super fights. And things can happen fast. I mean, only a few episodes ago, we were talking about Pereira. He was the fighter of the year. He was on top of the world. I haven't heard his name in a few months now, it feels like, since that fight. So, I mean, that's an incredibly impressive fight. I cannot wait for the next few months of the UFC, though. Islam Ilya 317 is going to be fun. We got DDP Cosmo coming up. That's going to be a fantastic fight. But you guys will see that next episode where we're going to be going over 317. I can't wait. It seems like it can't get here fast enough. We're going to see what happens with Ilya Oliveira, Justin Taffa, another huge win. That's your boy. But you can check out Banning at Next Man Up MMA, and you can check out both of our channels here. And unless you got something else to say, we'll see you next time after 317.
Hey, just know, like we said, things move quick. So by the end of the year, when Kevin Holland's in the top 5, don't be surprised.
Yep. It will happen, and we will see you guys then.